Captain Jake Morrison stood at the wide window of the bridge and watched the alien world turn slowly below them. The planet looked like a blue and green marble with white clouds swirling across its surface. 3 moons hung in the dark space around it like silver coins. After 6 months of travel through the void between stars, seeing this world felt like finding treasure. The ship UAS Horizon had been built for this moment. It was the most advanced vessel humanity had ever created, filled with the best equipment and the smartest people Earth could offer. 200 crew members had left their families behind to make this journey into the unknown. They came here to watch and learn about the first alien civilization humanity had ever found. Dr. Lisa Carter walked up beside the captain and held a datapad in her hands. Her eyes were bright with excitement as she looked at the readings on her screen. She had been studying the aliens for weeks, now using the ship's powerful sensors. The beings they called the Zilani lived in cities that sparkled like jewels on the planet's surface. "Captain, look at this," Lisa said as she showed him her pad. "The Zilani are building something new in their northern continent. It looks like some kind of communication tower. They're advancing faster than we thought they would." Jake took the pad and studied the images. The tower was tall and made of metal that gleamed in the alien sun. Around it, the Zilani moved in groups, working together like ants building a hill. Each alien had 4 arms and skin that seemed to glow with a soft light. They were tall and graceful, moving with a beauty that made them look like dancers. "How long until they can send signals into space?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "Maybe 50 years, maybe less. They're smart and they learn quickly. Their cities are growing, larger every month. We've counted over 2 billion of them across the planet." Jake nodded and handed back the pad. The mission rules were clear and simple. They were here to watch, record, and learn. They could not make contact with the Zilani. They could not interfere with their development. They could not even let the aliens know that humans existed. The ship stayed hidden in the shadow of the largest moon, using advanced stealth technology to remain invisible. Commander Alex Rodriguez joined them at the window. He was a strong man with serious eyes who had served in Earth's military for 20 years. Alex did not trust easily, and he worried about everything. He looked at the planet below and frowned. "I still don't like this," Alex said. "We're sitting here like a target. If they develop space travel, they'll find us. If they develop weapons, we're in trouble. This whole mission makes us vulnerable." Jake understood Alex's concerns. The Horizon was built for research, not for fighting. It had some defensive weapons, but they were meant to protect against space debris and small asteroids. If the Zilani became hostile, the ship would be in serious danger. "The mission planners back on Earth thought about this," Jake said. "The Zilani show no signs of aggression. They don't even fight wars among themselves. Look at their cities. They're built for beauty, not for defense. These are peaceful beings." Lisa smiled as she watched the aliens work on their tower. "They're wonderful," she said. "They create art with everything they build. Their machines are sculptures. Their buildings are poems made of stone and metal. I've never seen anything like it." Chief Engineer Danny Clark came onto the bridge carrying a coffee cup and looking tired. He had been working for days to keep the ship's systems running quietly. The stealth technology used a lot of power and needed constant attention. Danny was good at his job, but the stress was wearing on him. "Captain, we're going to need to move closer to the planet soon," Danny said. "The sensors work better at shorter range, and we're missing details from this distance. The science team wants clearer images of the Zilani technology." Alex stepped forward quickly. "Absolutely not. Moving closer means more risk. If their sensors detect us, this whole mission becomes a disaster." "Their sensors are primitive," Lisa sighed. "They use radio waves and basic optics. Our stealth systems can handle that easily." Jake listened to his officers argue and felt the weight of command on his shoulders. Every decision he made affected 200 lives and the future of human knowledge. Earth had spent 10 years planning this mission and billions of dollars building the Horizon. The expectations were enormous. "We'll stay at this distance for now," Jake decided. "Lisa, work with what we have. Danny, keep our systems running smooth. Alex, maintain security protocols. We have 18 months left on this mission, and I want us to complete it successfully. The bridge grew quiet as the officers returned to their duties. Jake remained at the window, watching the Zilani world turn in space. The aliens below had no idea that humans were watching them. They lived their lives in peace, building their beautiful cities and creating their art. They had never known war or hatred or fear of others. Jake envied them. Humanity had fought countless wars and made countless enemies. People on Earth still struggled with poverty and violence and hatred, but the Zilani seemed to have found a better way to live. They worked together and created beauty and found joy in simple things. The mission was to observe and learn. Jake hoped that humanity could learn not just about alien technology, but about alien wisdom. Maybe the Zilani could teach humans how to live in peace. He did not know that in 3 months everything would change. He did not know that peaceful observers would become desperate warriors. He did not know that the mission to watch would become a mission to save lives. The horizon continued its silent orbit around the alien world, and Captain Jake Morrison continued to believe that some things in the universe were still innocent. 3 months had passed since the horizon began watching the Zilani world. Dr. Lisa Carter had grown to love the peaceful aliens and their beautiful cities. She spent her days studying their behavior and learning their customs. The Zilani seemed to live without fear or anger. They shared their resources and helped each other build wonderful things. Lisa was working late in the science lab when her computer started making urgent beeping sounds. The long-range sensors had detected something new in the outer part of the star system. She frowned and checked the readings twice to make sure they were correct. What she saw made her blood run cold. "Captain Morrison to the bridge immediately," she called over the ship's communication system. Her voice shook with worry as she gathered her data and ran toward the command center. Jake arrived on the bridge still wearing his sleep clothes. Alex, Rodriguez, and Danny Clark came running from different directions. They could hear the fear in Lisa's voice and knew something terrible was happening. "Captain, look at this," Lisa said as she put her data on the main screen. The sensors picked up massive energy signatures coming from the edge of the system. These readings are unlike anything we've seen before. Jake stared at the screen and felt his heart sink. 12 large objects were moving toward the Zilani world at incredible speed. They were clearly artificial vessels, but they were not built by humans or Zilani. The energy patterns were completely alien and far more advanced than anything Earth had ever created. How long until they reached the planet? Jake asked. Lisa checked her calculations. At their current speed, maybe 6 days. "Captain, these ships are huge. The largest one is almost 3 times the size of the horizon." Alex moved to the tactical station and began analyzing the newcomers. His face grew more serious with each passing minute. "Captain, these vessels are heavily armed. I'm reading weapon systems that could destroy entire cities. This is not a peaceful contact mission." Danny ran scans of the alien ships and shook his head in amazement. "Their technology is incredible. They're using power sources we don't even understand. Their engines are more efficient than anything we've dreamed of building." The bridge crew worked frantically to learn everything they could about the approaching fleet. Lieutenant Colonel Beth Warren, the mission's tactical expert, joined them and immediately began studying the alien vessels. Her military training told her these were warships built for conquest. "Captain, we need to warn Earth," Beth said. "If these aliens are hostile, our planet could be in danger too." Jake thought about this carefully. Sending a message to Earth would take years to arrive and years more for a response. The horizon was completely alone in this situation. Whatever happened here, they would have to handle it themselves. "Keep monitoring the approaching ships," Jake ordered. "I want to know everything about their capabilities and intentions." 2 days later, the alien fleet reached the Zilani world. The newcomers did not try to hide their presence. They announced themselves with massive energy bursts that lit up the planet's sky like artificial suns. The Zilani looked up in wonder and fear at the strange lights above their world. Lisa had learned enough of the Zilani language to understand their radio communications. She listened with growing horror as the aliens sent their first message to the peaceful planet below. The message was simple and terrifying. This world now belongs to the Ravager fleet. All inhabitants will surrender immediately and prepare for processing. Resistance will result in complete extermination. You have one planetary rotation to comply. The Zilani radio networks exploded with confusion and panic. The peaceful aliens had never encountered anything like this before. They had no armies, no weapons, no defenses. Their entire civilization was built on cooperation and trust. They did not even understand what the Ravagers wanted from them. Jake watched the alien fleet take positions around the planet. The Ravagers were clearly experienced at this kind of operation. They moved with military precision and established a complete blockade. No ship could leave the planet's surface without their permission. "Captain, look at this," Beth said as she analyzed the Ravager formations. "These aliens have done this before. They know exactly how to conquer a world. This is not their first invasion." The Horizon's crew watched in helpless anger as the Ravagers began their conquest. When the deadline passed without surrender, the alien warships opened fire on the Zilani cities. Beautiful spires that had taken centuries to build were destroyed in seconds. Millions of innocent beings died in the first few minutes of the attack. Lisa wept as she watched the destruction. "We have to do something. We can't just sit here and watch genocide happen." Alex shook his head grimly. "What can we do? We're one research ship against 12 warships. We'd be destroyed in minutes. Then we send a message to Earth," Beth suggested. "We warn them about the Ravagers and hope humanity can prepare for what's coming." Jake stared at the burning cities on the planet below. The Zilani were dying while humans watched from safety. The mission was to observe, but observation was becoming participation in mass murder. Every moment they did nothing, more innocent lives were lost. "Captain, we have to make a choice," Lisa said quietly. "We can follow our orders and watch this happen, or we can try to help, but we can't do both." The bridge fell silent as everyone waited for Jake's decision. The Ravagers continued their bombardment of the helpless world. The beautiful alien civilization that had taken millions of years to evolve was being destroyed in a single day. Jake Morrison closed his eyes and thought about the oath he had taken when he became a starship captain. He had sworn to protect life and defend the innocent. The Zilani were not human, but they were innocent. They deserved to live just as much as anyone on Earth. "All senior staff to the briefing room," Jake announced. "We need to discuss our options." The captain knew that whatever they decided would change everything. The mission to observe was about to become something much more dangerous and much more important. The briefing room had never felt so tense. Captain Jake Morrison sat at the head of the table while his senior officers argued about the most important decision of their lives. Through the small window they could see the Zilani world burning. Below them, the beautiful cities that had sparkled like jewels were now covered in smoke and fire. Dr. Lisa Carter slammed her hand on the table. "We cannot just sit here and watch millions of innocent beings die. These are peaceful people who have never hurt anyone. They don't even know how to fight back." Commander Alex Rodriguez shook his head firmly. "Our orders are clear. We observe and report. We don't interfere with alien civilizations. If we break those orders, we put Earth at risk." "Earth is already at risk," Lieutenant Colonel Beth Warren said as she studied tactical reports. "The Ravagers are scanning everything. They're learning about this system and mapping all the planets. Eventually, they'll find traces of our technology." Chief Engineer Danny Clark looked exhausted. "Even if we wanted to help, what could we do? The Horizon isn't a warship. We have basic defensive weapons, but nothing that could fight 12 alien battleships." Chief Medical Officer Dr. Amy Foster had been quiet during most of the argument. She was a gentle woman who had joined the mission to study alien biology, not to make decisions about war and peace. But now she spoke with quiet conviction. "We didn't come out here just to collect data," Amy said. "We came here to represent humanity among the stars." If our first act is to watch genocide and do nothing, what does that say about who we are as a species? Alex leaned forward. It says we're smart enough to survive. If we attack those ships, we'll be destroyed. Then nobody will know what happened here. Earth won't get any warning about the Ravagers. A warning about what? Lisa asked angrily. There are evil aliens in space who destroy peaceful worlds? Earth already knows that's possible. But they don't know if humans are the kind of people who fight for others or the kind who run away. Jake listened to his officers debate while watching the destruction below. The Ravagers had landed ground forces on the planet. Giant machines were tearing apart Zelani cities and loading the materials onto transport ships. The aliens were not just conquering the world, they were stealing everything valuable from it. Beth, what are our chances if we attack? Jake asked. Beth pulled up tactical displays on her computer. Honestly, Captain, we'd probably be destroyed. But we might take one or two of their ships with us. The Ravagers aren't expecting anyone to fight back. We could hit them hard before they realize what's happening. And then what? Alex demanded. We're dead and the Zelani are still conquered. Nothing changes except that we waste 200 human lives. Maybe something does change, Amy said quietly. Maybe the Zelani see that someone was willing to fight for them. Maybe they find the courage to resist. Maybe they remember that not all aliens are monsters. Danny ran calculations on his tablet. If we redistribute all our power to weapons and shields, we could do some real damage. The horizon wasn't built for war, but human engineering is flexible. We could modify our systems for combat. Jake stood up and walked to the window. The Zelani world looked like a wounded animal, bleeding smoke and fire into space. He thought about his daughter back on Earth, only 8 years old and waiting for her father to come home. He thought about his crew, good people who had trusted him to make the right decisions. What if we don't attack the main fleet? Jake said slowly. What if we target their supply ships and transports? We could disrupt their operation without facing their main battle group. Beth considered this. That might work. Hit and run tactics. Strike fast and disappear before they can respond. We could save some Zelani lives and maybe give them time to evacuate their cities. It's still suicide, Alex said. Maybe slower. Suicide, but suicide all the same. Lisa stood up and faced the commander. Alex, I've been studying the Zelani for months. They're not just another alien species. They're proof that intelligence can evolve without violence. They've achieved things that humanity might never accomplish. If we let them die, we're not just losing lives, we're losing hope. The room fell silent. Outside, another Zelani city disappeared in a flash of alien weapons. Jake calculated that at the current rate of destruction, the entire civilization would be gone within days. I need to know where everyone stands, Jake said. This isn't just my decision. If we do this, we all do it together. Amy raised her hand first. I vote to fight, Lisa nodded. Fight. Beth looked at her tactical screens. Fight. Danny checked his engineering reports. Fight. Everyone looked at Alex. The commander stared at the burning planet for a long moment. I still think this is wrong, he said finally, but I won't abandon my crew. If we're going to die, we'll die together. Fight. Jake felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. 200 lives were now committed to an impossible battle. Then we fight, he said. God help us all. The planning began immediately. Danny would modify the ship's weapons and power systems. Beth would develop attack patterns that maximized their chances of survival. Lisa would try to contact the Zelani and coordinate their efforts. Amy would prepare medical facilities for the wounded. As the officers left the briefing room, Jake remained at the window. The Horizon had come here to observe an alien civilization. Instead, they were about to become part of its story. The mission parameters had changed forever. The peaceful research ship was about to become a warship, and Captain Jake Morrison was about to learn that some choices define not just individual lives, but the character of entire species. The next 12 hours changed everything aboard the Horizon. Chief Engineer Danny Clark worked like a man possessed, ripping apart peaceful research equipment and turning it into weapons of war. The ship's laboratories became weapon factories, as the crew modified every system they could find. "Captain, we've got the fusion torch ready," Danny reported over the communication system. "I've redirected the main engine output through the forward arrays. It won't be pretty, but it'll punch through their shields." Captain Jake Morrison stood in the engineering section watching his crew work. Scientists had become soldiers, doctors had become tacticians, and everyone had become something they never expected to be. The peaceful mission had transformed into preparation for war. Lieutenant Colonel Beth Warren had spent hours studying the Ravager fleet movements. She discovered that the aliens followed predictable patterns when attacking planets. They always positioned their command ship in the center of the formation while smaller vessels handled the actual destruction. "The command ship is our target," Beth explained to the senior staff. "If we can damage their communications, the rest of the fleet will be confused. The Ravagers seem to operate like a hive mind. Cut off the head and the body stops working." Dr. Lisa Carter had managed to establish contact with the Zilani using their primitive radio systems. The aliens were terrified and confused, but they were also desperate enough to listen to anyone who offered help. Lisa worked to teach them basic military tactics using simple concepts they could understand. "The Zilani are willing to fight," Lisa reported. "They don't know how, but they're trying to organize resistance groups. Some of them are hiding in the underground crystal caves. Others are sabotaging the Ravager ground operations." Alex Rodriguez had become the ship's war planner despite his earlier objections. Once the decision was made, he committed himself completely to making it work. He studied every detail of Ravager technology and looked for weaknesses they could exploit. "Their shields are powerful, but they have blind spots," Alex discovered. "If we approach from below the orbital plane, we can get close before they detect us. We'll have maybe 60 seconds before they react." The plan was simple because it had to be. The Horizon would use its stealth systems to approach the Ravager command ship from an unexpected direction. They would fire everything they had at the alien vessel, then run as fast as possible while the enemy fleet was confused. "It's not about winning," Jake explained to his crew over the ship's communication system. "It's about showing the Zilani that someone cares enough to fight for them. It's about proving that not all aliens are monsters." Chief Medical Officer Dr. Amy Foster prepared the medical bay for casualties. She knew that many of the crew might not survive the attack, but she also knew that doing nothing would be worse than dying. The Horizon had become humanity's moral representative in space. "We're not just fighting for the Zilani," Amy told her medical team. "We're fighting for the idea that intelligent beings should help each other instead of destroying each other." The attack began at dawn on the Zilani world. The Horizon dropped out of stealth mode directly beneath the massive Ravager command ship. For a moment, the alien vessel looked like a metal mountain hanging in space above them. Then Danny fired. Every weapon the ship had, the fusion torch struck the command ship like a lance of pure energy. The alien vessel's shields flared and failed under the unexpected assault. Explosions rippled across its hull as human weapons tore through armor that had never been designed to face such concentrated firepower. "Direct hit," Beth shouted from the tactical station. "Their main communication array is gone." The Ravager command ship began to list to one side as atmosphere vented from dozens of holes in its hull. Emergency lights flashed across its surface as the alien crew fought to save their vessel. The other Ravager ships stopped their bombardment of the planet and turned toward the unexpected threat. "All ships, this is the human vessel Horizon," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "We are here to defend the innocent. Any alien vessel that attacks peaceful worlds will face human resistance." The message was heard across the star system. The Zilani stopped running and looked up at the sky where a small human ship was fighting 12 alien warships. The Ravagers realized they were no longer facing helpless prey, but armed enemies. "Captain, they're coming after us," Alex reported. "All ships are breaking formation and heading our way." "Then we've done our job," Jake replied. "Danny, get us out of here. Maximum speed." The horizon turned and ran toward the outer system with 12 angry alien warships in pursuit. The human ship was faster and more maneuverable, but the Ravagers had numbers and firepower. Energy beams lanced through space as the chase began. Behind them, the Zilani saw something they had never seen before. Someone had fought for them. Someone had risked everything to give them hope. The peaceful aliens began to organize real resistance for the first time in their history. "Look what we've started," Lisa said as she monitored Zilani communications. "They're calling us the Guardians. They think we're angels sent to save them." Jake watched the pursuing Ravager ships on his display screen. The human vessel was in terrible danger, but they had accomplished something important. They had shown the galaxy that humanity would fight for others. Not just for themselves. The war had begun and there was no going back. The horizon had fired the first shots in a conflict that would determine whether intelligence meant cooperation or conquest in the universe. The peaceful observers had become warriors, and the galaxy would never be the same. The war that followed changed everyone aboard the horizon. What had started as one desperate attack became months of running battles across the star system. The human ship had become a ghost that appeared without warning, struck hard, and vanished. Before the Ravagers could respond, Captain Jake Morrison stood in what remained of the bridge and looked at the damage reports. Half his crew was dead or wounded. The ship held together with spare parts and determination. Every day brought new battles and new losses, but they kept fighting because stopping meant watching the Zilani die. "Captain, we've lost another engine," Chief Engineer Danny Clark reported. His left arm was in a medical brace from the last battle. "I can keep us moving, but we're down to 60% power." The ship wasn't built for this kind of punishment. Dr. Lisa Carter worked frantically at the communication station, coordinating with Zilani resistance groups across the planet. The peaceful aliens had learned to fight with surprising speed. They used their knowledge of the crystal caves to create underground networks that the Ravagers could not find. "The Zilani have destroyed 3 more Ravager supply depots," Lisa announced. "They're learning to make explosives from their mining equipment. The aliens are getting frustrated because they can't pin down the resistance fighters." Lieutenant Colonel Beth Warren had become the ship's primary strategist. She studied Ravager tactics constantly, looking for new weaknesses to exploit. The alien invaders were powerful, but they followed predictable patterns that human creativity could overcome. "We've taken out 8 of their ships," Beth reported. "But they're adapting to our tactics. They're starting to expect our attacks and setting traps. The next few battles are going to be much harder." Commander Alex Rodriguez had taken over most of the tactical operations. Despite his initial opposition to the mission, he had become one of its most dedicated supporters. He watched the Ravager fleet movements on his screens and planned their next strike. "They're bringing in reinforcements," Alex said grimly. 3 more ships arrived yesterday from outside the system. We're now facing 15 enemy vessels instead of 12. The Horizon crew had learned to live with constant danger. They ate meals between battles and slept in shifts while maintaining combat readiness. The peaceful research vessel had become a warship crewed by people who had never expected to fight for their lives. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Amy Foster worked around the clock treating wounded crew members. Her medical bay had become a place of miracles where she saved lives that should have been lost. But she could not save everyone, and the list of the dead grew longer each week. "We've lost 37 people," Amy reported quietly. "Another 20 are wounded too badly to return to duty. Captain, we're running out of people to operate the ship." Jake felt the weight of every lost life on his conscience. These were good people who had come to space to explore and learn. Instead, they had died fighting aliens in a war that Earth would never know about. But their sacrifice had meaning because the Zilani were still alive. The turning point came during the Battle of Crystal Valley. The Ravagers had cornered a large group of Zilani refugees in one of the planet's largest cave systems. The aliens planned to flood the caves with poison gas and kill thousands of innocent beings at once. "We can't let this happen," Lisa said, as she monitored the Ravager preparations. "There are children in those caves. Families who have never hurt anyone? Jake made a decision that would haunt him forever. We're going in, full attack on the Ravager ground forces. The Horizon dropped out of orbit and entered the planet's atmosphere for the first time. The ship was not designed for atmospheric flight, but Danny managed to keep it airborne through skill and desperation. They swooped over Crystal Valley like an avenging angel. Fire everything, Jake ordered. The human weapons lit up the valley like artificial lightning. Ravager ground troops were caught completely by surprise as energy beams destroyed their equipment and scattered their formations. The poison gas operation was stopped just minutes before it would have killed thousands of Zilani, but the attack cost them dearly. 3 Ravager ships caught the Horizon while it was still in the atmosphere. Energy beams struck the human vessel repeatedly, tearing holes in the hull and destroying entire sections. The ship barely escaped into space before it was completely destroyed. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, Danny reported. We've lost life support in half the ship. Engineering is running on emergency power only. Casualties are heavy, Amy added. We lost 15 people in that attack. The ship can't take much more of this. Jake stared at the tactical display showing the remaining Ravager forces. They had saved the Zilani in Crystal Valley, but the cost was enormous. The Horizon was dying by inches, and soon they would not be able to fight at all. How many Ravager ships are left? Jake asked. 5, Beth answered. But they're the largest and most powerful ones. Their command ship is still operational. Lisa looked up from her communication console with tears in her eyes. Captain, the Zilani are calling us heroes. They say we taught them how to be brave. The resistance groups are growing stronger every day. Jake nodded and walked to the window that had somehow survived all the battles. The Zilani world still turned below them, scarred by war but not conquered. The beautiful alien civilization had learned to fight for itself. Because humans had shown them it was possible, the war was far from over, but something important had changed. The Zilani were no longer helpless victims. They had become fighters who defended their own world. The peaceful observers from Earth had given them the greatest gift possible: hope. The final battle began when the Horizon had only 60 crew members left alive. Captain Jake Morrison looked around the damaged bridge and saw the faces of people who had given everything for strangers. They were exhausted, wounded, and barely holding their ship together, but they had not given up hope. Captain, the Ravagers are massing for a final assault on the planet, Lieutenant Colonel Beth Warren reported. All 5 remaining ships are moving into bombardment positions. They're going to destroy every city on the surface. The alien invaders had grown tired of the stubborn resistance. The Zilani had learned to fight with human determination, using guerrilla tactics that frustrated the technologically superior enemy. The Ravagers had decided to end the war by killing everyone on the planet. Dr. Lisa Carter listened to the desperate communications from the Zilani cities below. They know what's coming, she said quietly. The Zilani are saying goodbye to each other. They're not running anymore. They're going to face death with dignity. Chief Engineer Danny Clark worked frantically at his damaged control panels. Captain, I can give you one more fight, but that's all. The ship will break apart after we use the remaining power. This is our last chance. Jake stood at the center of the bridge and looked at his surviving crew. These people had followed him into an impossible war and fought beyond all reason. They had saved an alien civilization, but now they faced their own destruction. We can't stop 5 ships, Commander, Alex Rodriguez said honestly. But we can make them pay a price for what they're doing. We can show the galaxy that humans don't surrender. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Amy Foster had given up trying to treat all the wounded. Too many people needed help, and she had too few supplies. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now, she said. We're losing people every minute. Jake made the hardest decision of his life. All hands, this is the captain. We're going to ram the Ravager command ship. Everyone who can't fight should get to the escape pods. We'll give you as much time as possible to reach the planet. No one is leaving, Danny said firmly. We started this together, and we'll finish it together. The other crew members nodded in agreement. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to abandon their mission now. The Horizon would make its final attack with everyone aboard. The human ship dropped out of its hiding place behind the largest moon and accelerated toward the Ravager fleet at maximum speed. The enemy vessels turned to face this last desperate charge, their weapons charging for the killing blow. "Danny, transfer all remaining power to the forward shields," Jake ordered. "Beth, target their command ship. Alex, give me everything our weapons have left." The Horizon flew straight into the heart of the Ravager formation like a missile. Enemy fire struck the ship repeatedly, tearing away armor and destroying systems. But the human vessel kept coming. The crew held their positions as explosions rocked the bridge. "Shields failing," Beth reported as sparks flew from her console. "Hull breach on every deck. We're falling apart." "Keep us together for 30 more seconds," Jake shouted over the noise of alarms and explosions. "That's all I need." The Ravager command ship grew larger and larger on the main screen until it filled their entire view. The alien vessel was massive and powerful, but it had never faced an enemy willing to die to destroy it. The humans were doing something the Ravagers could not understand. 10 seconds to impact," Alex called out. "It's been an honor serving with you all." Jake thought about his daughter on Earth as the final moments approached. She would never know what her father had done or why he had chosen to die so far from home. But someday, when humans traveled among the stars, they would find worlds where people remembered the ship that fought for strangers. The Horizon struck the Ravager command ship at full speed, and both vessels disappeared in a ball of fire that could be seen from the planet's surface. The explosion was so bright that it turned night into day across half the world. The remaining Ravager ships, suddenly cut off from their command structure, stopped their attack and retreated in confusion. Dr. Lisa Carter had managed to reach an escape pod just before the collision. She was one of only 12 crew members who survived to see the aftermath of their sacrifice. The pod landed in a Zilani city where the grateful aliens treated the human survivors like heroes. The Zilani had learned something important from watching the humans fight. They had seen that intelligent beings could choose to help others instead of conquering them. They had learned that courage was more powerful than superior technology and that hope could survive even the darkest times. Within a year, the Zilani had developed space travel and began exploring other star systems. They carried with them the memory of the human ship that had saved their world. They built monuments to the Horizon crew and told their children stories about the Guardians who came from the stars. The rescue ship that eventually found the survivors brought news that changed everything. The Ravagers had been a terror across the galaxy for centuries, conquering dozens of worlds. But the defeat at the Zilani system had broken their power forever. Other species had seen that the invaders could be beaten and had risen up in rebellion. The mission had been to observe and learn. Instead, the crew of the Horizon had taught the galaxy that some things were worth fighting for. They had shown that intelligence without compassion was just another form of barbarism, and that true strength came from protecting the weak instead of exploiting them. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew had given their lives to save strangers, and in doing so they had changed the course of galactic history. The peaceful observers had become legends, and humanity had announced itself to the universe as a species that would fight for justice. No matter what the cost, the war they started would be remembered forever as the moment when the galaxy learned that not all intelligent life chose the path of conquest. Some chose the harder path of sacrifice for others, and that choice made all the difference.